couple of weeks ago, I was in a business meeting, and a guy that I've been partnering with for a long time just shows up really frustrated. And he started getting really short in his emails, and you could just tell the way that he was interacting over the phone and in person that he was frustrated about something. And I could perceive that something was happening, but I didn't know what was actually happening. And so I started to think to myself, and I asked myself this key question: is there any mis-dis under? And mis-dis under basically stands for misunderstanding, disrespect, or underappreciation. And in our family and in my work, I've learned that this shows up so often in conflict and in confusion and in frustration. And so I'm learning this skill on how to ask myself that question, either whether it's myself or when it's someone else who's coming across and they're frustrated or angry or just not feeling loved. Usually there's one of these three things. If either they're feeling misunderstood, they're feeling disrespected, or underappreciated. Now let's break those down. So misunderstood. Basically, when we put something out there, whether we verbalize something or we act a certain way, and we believe that it has not been received the same way that we have sent it, the way that we have given the message. And that can be very frustrating, especially if it happens multiple times over. Misunderstood. Usually that comes out of if you're trying to communicate something and it's misunderstood. Typical politics, constantly. They're speaking two different languages. And so the second is disrespected. Anytime that someone says something, does something that makes you feel like you've lost your respect. Respect is a form of the word dignity, and it is a form of honor. It's the rightful honor that you are meant to be to walk with. And when you feel like that has been taken from you, there's this feeling of disrespect. And in a marriage or in a business setting, being disrespected is a huge red flag. And the third is underappreciation. If you feel like you have been putting something in, you've been working hard, whether you're working around the house or you're pouring into something and you're courageously going into a project and giving it your all, but you feel like either other people aren't pulling their own weight or they're just not appreciating what you have been giving, you feel underappreciated. Now, all three of these things lie below the surface. And we'll get into that another time. I call them iceberg emotions because these emotions sit below the surface. And so I, especially as a man, am not in touch with my feelings well enough to know that I'm feeling these things. So I'll be feeling disrespected, but I'll have no idea. And I'll just usually feel angry or frustrated. Or I'll be feeling underappreciated, but it's not on my radar that I'm actually feeling that thing. It's way below the surface. Like an iceberg, the majority of it, 90% of an iceberg is below the surface. And so the emotions that I feel are way below the surface. I can't actually feel them. And so I have to learn how to diagnose them. And so I'm learning when I feel things like sadness, when I feel frustration, anger, when I feel these types of things, I'm starting to ask myself, okay, is there something below the surface? And what I find is that 80% of the time, these three show up: under, misunderstood, disrespected, underappreciated. So next time there's a conflict, a frustration in your marriage, next time there's frustration on your team, ask yourself this question: is there a mis-dis under? And your team members, your spouse will probably laugh at you and think it's a goofy word. Yes, it is, but it's helped us remember that mis-dis under shows up all the time. So ask yourself, am I being mis-dis undered? Is someone else feeling mis-dis undered? And then walk your way through it. And 80% of the time it has helped us to understand and unpack the emotions that are below the surface.